Welcome to the GTN Show. On this week's show, Mark and I discuss, is triathlon really that interesting?
We also have Alistair Brownlee taking on an incredible bikepacking adventure / race, plus a ton of racing. Challenge Roth was smashed apart with some of the largest margins of victory ever. We have the Swimrun World Championships, plus, of course, the Super League Triathlon. So, the weekend before last, I was in Slovakia for the Collins Cup, and then this past weekend I was also fortunate enough to be at the Super League Triathlon in London. And it's led me kind of to think and want to discuss here on GTN, is triathlon really that interesting?
Well, yeah, of course it is. That's why we're here, Mark.
But is it really? I mean, obviously we find it really exciting, but does Joe Bloggs from outside triathlon looking in really go, wow, that's a really cool sport and I really want to watch more of that?
Well, that's an interesting question because in the last 2 weeks, as you say, we've seen two very different camps try to make triathlon watchable on TV. We had the Collins Cup, which was a long distance or middle distance race, where they tried to make all the new innovations with TV to make it very watchable and dubious about whether they succeeded there or not. You guys can tell us. And then last weekend we had the Super League, which is going the other direction and trying to make the racing really fast, bang, 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 to keep viewers entertained and make that very watchable on TV. Is that the answer? Do they have to reinvent triathlon?
Well, obviously, as fanboys of triathlon, we watch both thinking they're amazing. But if I strip it back here, this is just my personal thoughts here. So short course triathlon, there's a lot happening in a short space of time, there's a lot of change. I think that is very spectator friendly, very engaging. Whereas long course triathlon, obviously we really respect it. I think it's really exciting. But for someone outside of triathlon looking in, is it really that engaging?
I can see that argument because yeah, when you watch long course triathlon as it currently is, it's hard to get engaged and interested. But I've done a lot of long course racing and I've never been bored in my race, which means there's a lot going on. I mean, what we really need is the cameras to get in there and see what's going on in the front of the races because it is changing all the time and there is a lot to concentrate on. I think at the moment you're just not seeing it. You look at golf and they make golf interesting. Golf is a long and boring day. But on TV, people tune in and watch it for the whole weekend. Yeah,
I mean, I've got to say here, I am certainly not a golf fan. And I know they do a very good job on the Ryder Cup. So yeah, maybe you have got a point here. They do manage to make something quite engaging, but even for myself, I struggle to get pulled in.
To be fair, I don't really watch golf either. But I have been drawn into sailing and I know nothing about sailing. And if you watch sailing, they have all kinds of graphics on TV, the commentary is really good, and before you know it, you're fully into what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's literally the package that's selling a sport that you have no interest in before you start.
I think you got a really good point there, because the Sail GP, the America's Cup, the graphics, you literally then understand what is going on, having no experience. And I know that some of the people involved in Super League Triathlon have actually come from that, so that's really
Well, I'll put this to you though, and the counter argument, is it that you're not seeing what's happening in the race, or is it simply that the race is not for a big enough prize? So say you put a small plastic gold cup at the top of a mountain and gave 10 guys, right, off you go, race. The first one gets the little plastic cup. Everyone's gonna go, those guys are nuts, I'm not watching this. But if you put $1 million in a plastic bag up at the top of that mountain and you said, right, 10 guys, first one to the top gets the $1 million, you might tune in and watch and see what those guys are prepared to do for $1 million.
Yeah, true. And especially if mountain running was something you had experience in, which I guess is what golf and triathlon has got going for it. Everyone has done it, or at least parts of it. Now, obviously this past weekend at the Collins Cup, we didn't have $1 million up for grabs, but they did put a lot of time, effort and money into the broadcast and trying to make it engaging. They also brought some exciting formats into it with the Team Europe, Team International, Team USA. Similarly with Super League Triathlon, also they brought in some teams for that. So are they on the right track? Are they going in the right direction even without the prize money?
I don't know. Super League also brought in some teams to try and make another dynamic there. So we don't really have the answers, as you can tell, but if you have some answers, leave them in the comments down below. Mark and I will discuss it further in future, I am sure. Do they need to reinvent triathlon, or do they just need to improve the TV coverage? Well, On with the show, and we're going to start with reacts.
Yeah, first off, Alistair Brownlee getting stuck into a rather long endurance bike ride.
Yeah, he had ankle surgery a couple months ago and hasn't been racing. And then suddenly he showed up on social media saying he's doing the 750 kilometer gravel Badlands across Spain this weekend. So we were doing a bit of dot watching, and he has finished. He finished in 7th. Pretty impressive, Alistair.
Yeah, along with a lot of punctures, apparently. More punctures than he's ever experienced in his whole triathlon career, probably within 3 hours.
Took him about 56 hours, I think, with about 5 hours of stopping time in that whole 56 hours, which is pretty insane. He is on the start list for 70.3 World Champs in next weekend, but I don't think he's going to be there. No.
I also really enjoyed this post from Non Stanford over the weekend. Obviously, she was involved in the Super League Triathlon, mostly because I spoke to her after the race and she said, without really divulging what had gone on, that literally everything went wrong that could have gone wrong.
Well, she posted this on social media. She said, if there was a mistake to make, I made it, including this attempt to take a dip in my helmet. She's trying to put her goggles over her helmet there. And in her defense, it's the Super League Triple Mix. They keep changing the order for each one, so it's not very often that triathletes have practiced going from bike to swim. It's not something you do.
And you literally have 2 or 3 minutes between each of the rounds, depending on where you come in the finishing order. You might even just have 90 seconds, and you've got to sort out a lot. It looked frantic.
Well, entertaining to watch anyway, even if it's not so fun for her getting it wrong like that. Next up, this unfortunate news from Rudy von Berg. He is out of the 70.3 World Champs. He was one of the favorites, definitely a guy up there. He was on the podium in Nice, but he's had mononucleosis and he pulled out of the Collins Cup last week, but now he's also pulled out of the 70.3 Worlds, called it a day on his season. He's going to rest and recover and come back stronger next season. We wish you get well soon, Rudy.
Yeah, definitely. Next, we have Eric Lagerstrom showing us just how well he can jump fences. Now, this is at the championship race in Slovakia. He has, unfortunately, it seems, gone down the wrong chute out of the swim exit coming into T1, and has realised he needs to jump the fence, and he did it spectacularly.
Yeah, he's
so much so he really showed up the next person that tried to jump over the fence.
Didn't do it so gracefully. Yeah, talking about going the wrong way. How about this from the Vuelta with Primož Roglic? Head down's always most aero, but you got to watch where you're going, don't you?
Yeah, a good job there was the tape there. Otherwise, he could have ended up on the motorway off to God knows where. Next, I got sent this one by a couple of people on social media over the weekend, partly because obviously we have done our Crocs video, but Crocs with spikes. God, it looks fast, right?
It looks like a bad idea. All I can see is one of those spikes popping out of that soft rubber, flipping the wrong way and going straight into your foot.
No, this is, I've thought about this, because I'm going to put the carbon plate in so you can screw them into the carbon plate.
Ah, yeah, the future of running.
Now for the Tri News, and to start off with, we have some pretty epic challenges. So firstly, Ellie Kent has swam 64 kilometres in 30 hours. But not just that, across 11 lakes in the Lake District. She started at Coniston and worked her way clockwise around to finish at Windermere. Now Ellie is part of the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, which is a corps of the British Army, and has managed to raise over £1,750 for its charity, which helps ex-recruits experiencing financial difficulty, as well as for the charity Calm.
And another epic challenge, a triathlon challenge, also for charity. Friends Alex Moran and Mark Kopok have done what's been called the first Island Munro's triathlon. It's a bit of an extreme triathlon. They covered 13 peaks, and they did it in memory of Alex's father, Martin Moran, who was an acclaimed mountaineer and died in an avalanche in 2019. And they did it all for charity too. They climbed 13 mountains over 3,000 feet, and in between, they swam and cycled. Yeah,
very impressive. The two men did this to raise around 10,000 or over £10,000 for the Martin Moran Foundation, which helps young people coming from diverse backgrounds pursue adventures in the mountains. And yeah, this is a really, really impressive challenge.
Yeah, they started with a mile-long swim in the Sound of Mel, and then covered a total of 192 miles, including those 13 peaks, and did it all in a non-stop event taking 32 hours and 23 minutes, which is a pretty epic day out.
Yeah, and just to give this some perspective, I mean, this isn't just nice groomed trails. This is borderline rock climbing at points, so really, really quite impressive. So well done, chaps.
Pretty epic. And the last bit of Tri news, they've released the start list for the 70.3 Worlds, so we can see those bib numbers. Mark and I have made a little preview video, which is coming up soon, so you can see what's coming up in that race. Now it's time for What the Tech, or Tech News, as it used to be known. Starting with this from Selle Italia, a new green saddle. Selle Italia have released a new eco-friendly saddle made without any glue materials and entirely made in Italy to reduce its CO2 footprint. A statement from the company says the Model X Green Superflow sets an important milestone for Selle Italia in terms of production technology and brand values. A saddle with a low environmental impact and eco-sustainable that, at the same time, guarantees comfort and performance. And they promise it also keeps the price competitive. Well, we'll see. We look forward to seeing that. It has two models, the Model X Green Superflow and the Model X Green Comfort Plus Superflow, and will be out soon.
I mean, what the tech, a green saddle.
It's not actually green, Mark. It's eco-friendly. It's a black saddle.
Oh, right, got you, yeah. All right. Well, we also have another exciting tech release, but this time more of an update. This is with the Nerve running insoles. Now, Heather and myself have used these insoles before to track all sorts of amazing metrics and data, how your foot lands, tracks, rolls, ground contact time, etc. In fact, it's really displayed and showed some of my flaws in my running technique. But now they've updated these so that they can track power as well. So you will get a power report post-run, but also you can get audio cues as to the power zone that you're in. Currently, I'm not aware that it is compatible with showing or displaying real-time power data on wrist-based wearables, but that is more a limiting factor of the wrist-based wearables rather than the insoles. But I think this is calling for another cheap shoe versus super shoe, but with more data this time.
Well, that would be a lot of data. I've never run in them. I look forward to trying them. You could put them in your Crocs, Mark, and see how you run in those.
Well, imagine. Oh, God, it'd be the best results I've probably ever had. No? Probably not. And last week we had the release of the new Shimano Dura Ace and Ultegra group sets, which were released simultaneously, which is unusual, but I guess what is normal about 2021, hey? So this group set is entirely wireless, or at least semi-wireless. So what I mean by that is the hoods or the shifters are wireless. There's no cables involved in that, which makes it very cool, very clean, very neat. There's no need for routing cables through the bars, etc. But then the front mech and the rear mech are actually wired together with a battery internally. It's also a 12-speed, and they claim that they have made the shifting even faster yet again, which is impressive because Shimano were apparently the market leaders in that anyway.
Yeah. No tri version or TT version yet, though, so you'll have to stick to your old 11-speed for now, but I'm sure that will come soon. I'm not sure how, though, they're going to fit all that wireless technology into the end of your bar end shifters, so I suspect we'll probably see a semi-wireless version of that too, similar to the SRAM one, where there's a junction box hidden somewhere in your stem or aero bars. Yeah,
talking of which, there have actually been some SRAM wireless blips seen out
like
there.
Actual wireless blips with no wires whatsoever.
Yeah, so ordinarily you have these small blips which are wired together with a junction box. Well, it seems that they've managed to make and put the junction box on the blips, which, well, I can understand it with a lot of these kind of one-off customized bars which are solid carbon. You have no internal routing for them, so they've been able to just plonk them on the end, but they're pretty bulky.
They are pretty bulky. Also, at the moment, you can't change the battery and you can't charge them. So essentially, they're disposable. They say the battery will last 2 years, and they're not actually available to the public yet. So this is the first iteration of them. SRAM Global Road Manager Michael Zellman did say these are new wireless blips, still under development, and we're not yet certain if they'll even make it through development and testing. But they have been seen in the wild on some of the pros bikes at the tour. So
have to wait and see.
Yeah, might make it a bit easier to build up your tri bike in the future, where you can just stick a blip somewhere. On to our race news, and quite a lot of races happened this past weekend. First up, we had Challenge Roth, which was finally happening after being postponed in its normal July time slot to September. And as predicted, a few big names jumped in at the last minute after Kona was cancelled. Some of those were Seb Keenley, who had to withdraw during the bike because of an Achilles injury, which is persisting. So the pre-race favourite was out of this one, and he'll also be glad that Kona is postponed to February because clearly he's not in good form. But someone who is in good form, two-time Kona winner Patrick Lange, he ran away with it. Had a very impressive day with I think a 2:38 marathon to win by a massive 11-minute margin in a time of 7:19.19, which is stupidly fast, but then they should cut the bike short. So they cut 10Ks, at least 10Ks, off the bike route because of roadworks. So he had a good race, but I'm not sure about the time means anything. He was 11 minutes ahead of Nils Frommholt in second, and in third with the fastest run of the day in a 2:35.39, Felix Henschel, which is a very impressive run. A run record in Roth, if you can call it a record. Is it a record if they didn't do the whole bike?
Well, yeah, I mean, the run course was legit. That was the right distance. But yeah, if you've come off a 10-kilometre shorter bike,
yeah, you're
could
a
you
little bit
really
fresher.
compare that?
Can you, yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
I'm not sure that should
Grey
go in
area.
the record books. Well, it's not our decision.
Well, if you thought 11 minutes was a big winning margin, well, let's talk about the women's race, because Kona champion Annie Haug won by a whopping 31 minutes. Yeah, she took the win there ahead of Laura Sedal, who jumped up from 6th place to 2nd place on that run, and Fenella Langridge held on for 3rd.
Very impressive. Speaking of big winning margins though, Daniela Ryf, never to be outdone, won Ironman Switzerland by a massive 36 minutes. Yeah, she's back in form after her slightly out of form Collins Cup. I believe that was because of her COVID jab, actually. Yeah, but she's back on form and in her normal winning ways. She won by 36 minutes ahead of fellow Swiss Petra Eggenschwaler. On the men's side, it was much closer, much closer. Jan van Berkel and Joe Skipper going head to head on the run, and Jan van Berkel just pulling away to win by only 86 seconds ahead of Joe Skipper, with Rudy Wild taking 3rd there.
Well, that race also was a momentous occasion for Ronnie Schildknecht, who has won Ironman Switzerland an incredible 9 times out of the 10 that he's done it from 2007 to 2016. This was his official last race, his retirement from the sport. And I mean, Ronnie is a fantastic guy, a great person to have in our sport. So we do wish him the best of luck in his future endeavours.
Congratulations to Ronnie on a fantastic career. He finished in 8 hours 41 at that race, so finished in fine style at his Switzerland race. On to the next race, that 70.3 South Africa finally happened, and that normally happens in January. It happened in September. Unfortunately, only 7 pros starting, only 5 men and 2 women, but we can't really blame them for that because this race was fraught with difficulty. Basically, South Africa is still in a massive 3rd wave of COVID and lots of restrictions in place. They actually cancelled this race on the 13th of August, just before, 3 weeks before it was supposed to happen, and then a few hours later they uncancelled it.
Oh no, I hope you didn't hit that cancel on your accommodation, your flights too soon.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty difficult to prepare for a race, so congratulations to everyone who managed to pull that off, and hats off to the organisers also for pulling that off, because clearly they got a few curveballs. Matt Troutman took the win there ahead of James McCullum, with Michael Ferreira in 3rd, and on the women's side, Natia van Heerden took the women's win ahead of Mariella Sawyer.
We also had Ironman 70.3 Warsaw at the weekend, and it was Dennis Chevreau that took the win on the men's side and Didi Diedrichs on the women's side. We also, of course, had Super League Triathlon London, which I was fortunate enough to be at this weekend, and boy was it exciting. We had the triple mix format, which we explained earlier, literally throwing up and changing up the order of the disciplines between 3 different stages with just 2 or 3 minutes between each. On the women's side, it was Jess Learmonth that took the win there with a very, very close finish. And on the men's side, it was Hayden Wild that took the win there after taking benefit or use of the short shoot that he gained earlier on in the race and surprising Vincent Louis and Johnny Brownlee in the closing stages of the run. And again, a very, very fast and frantic finish there.
Yeah, really very exciting. The short shoot's a pretty cool idea. Basically, early in the race, if they have the fastest swim bike split, they get given this bonus short shoot where they can basically cut about 40 meters off one of the corners and use it whenever they like. So Hayden Wild held it in his pocket till the very last lap and then got a little gap on Vincent Louis and held it to the end. It was pretty exciting to watch.
It's just so impressive to see those guys running at that time.
Speaking of innovations in the sport, keeping it interesting, that was made it interesting.
Yeah, and if you want to see the behind the scenes that we filmed whilst there, then do check that out. It's on the channel already. Also this weekend we had something totally different. and opposite end of the spectrum, Otillo Swimrun World Championships, which is where the sport of swimrun has originated from over in Sweden on the archipelago islands. It is a total of 75 kilometers, 65k of running, 10 kilometers of swimming over 26 islands. I have been there, I've done it a couple of times. I can tell you it is epic. It is really, really hard. You run in your wetsuits for the entire thing, you swim in your running shoes, you have to do it as a pair. It really is quite a cool race.
Yeah, the winners there were on the men's team, Team Sim Coachin took the win. In the mixed team, Team Envol Head Swimming. And on the women's side, Arc Swimrun, Helena and Kristen took the women's win.
And it was a fast year as well, with the men's team taking the record by just a minute, and the mixed team taking the record by around 2 minutes.
Yeah. And races coming up this coming weekend. We have Ironman 70.3 Nice and Ironman 70.3 Sunshine Coast. Both of those previously held 70.3 World Champs venues. Also at Ironman 70.3 Nice is Ironman France, which is an age group only race that was supposed to happen in July. No pro race there, but finally happening at that Ironman France. There's also a whole lot of age group 70.3s around the world. So if you're racing this weekend, good luck. We also have Challenge Almere Amsterdam, which incorporates the World Triathlon Multisport Champs, and Challenge Denmark in Herning, Denmark.
All right, now to take a look through some of your photos and videos that you sent in to us. Don't forget you can send in your own using the photo uploader link is on screen right now. You can find it in the description just down below. So starting off with a race photo, or at least from transition, Gabor taking part in the championship race in Slovakia, which I was fortunate enough to be at. He's got his giant TCR racked up in transition for the Olympic distance race. So I hope it went well for you, Gabor. Fantastic race to do as well.
Next up, we have this shot from Aiden in Turkey on his Selle S5. He went out for a training ride on his holiday while his wife and kids were sleeping. He did not just take his Selle S5 on holiday, also took his wife and kids, but he got out for a little ride while they were still asleep, and a pretty scenic ride at that.
And I hope he got back in time for the holiday and didn't. Yeah. Next one from Jamie, and this one comes from Ore in Sweden, and he was taking part in his first iron distance triathlon. But not just any old iron distance triathlon, it was the Swedeman, which is basically an X-Tri World Championship race like Norseman and Keltman. So a pretty epic first one. I've got a bit of experience of doing your first iron distance in one of those. So I hope it went well for you. Pretty big one to jump in on.
Yeah, and now for a moment of calm, brought to you by Gabe in Bavaria in his training camp in the Alps. Breathe in and out and relax. All right, on with the show. Right. Caption competition. Last week we had this photo of Anne Haug at the Collins Cup, and some ideas you guys sent in. Assassin Cat said, wetsuit, $900. Slippers, priceless.
Nice. Fergal Akala said, as a handicap, Team Europe have to swim in slippers and run in Crocs.
Handicap? Crocs on a handicap, are they, Mark?
Well, no, true, actually.
No.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. Marcelo G said, these GTN guys think they are fast in Crocs. I'll show them fast in slippers.
Nice. The winner, though.
She probably would outrun us in slippers, Mark.
Yeah, true, probably. Winner, Sean O'Keefe said, Team Europe utilise slipper stream in the swim to save energy.
Nice. Well done. Send us your details and we'll get a cap out to you, Sean. This week we have this image from the Super League, and as we said, they did a team competition, and one of the teams was the Sharks. So no ideas from us as far as this caption goes, but I'm sure you guys can come up with something. So leave your caption in the comments down below and we'll pick a winner next week.
Well, that is it for the show this week. We have loads coming up on the channel, including James going on a white horse ride.
I didn't actually ride a white horse. I don't think I know how to ride a white horse, or any horse.
No, to give this some context, here in Wiltshire, the area that we're living in, has lots of white horses up on the hills. They're carved out of the hills, they're chalk.
He didn't actually tell me this before he sent me on this epic adventure, so it turned into quite an adventure. So tune in to watch that. Also coming up, we have a video on how to include your kids in your triathlon training.
And how do you do that?
It's best to just quit triathlon.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Well, if you've enjoyed today's show, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, whilst we're at it, head on over to the GTN shop. Get hold of a load of merch like these t-shirts, jumpers, and towels, and all sorts that we got over there.
Yeah, if you're looking for something else to watch right now, as Mark said earlier, he did a little behind the scenes of the Super League Triathlon. And also, last week, Mark and I did the cheapest triathlon possible, which turned into a pretty fun adventure for us. So tune in and watch that.